Yeah, so we are here in Warsaw at the annual general meeting of the Trade4SD project. I'm doing an interview with Alastair from University of Kent. So my first question to you is that the Trade4SD project started 3 years ago. From your perspective, what do you see as the most important outcome of the project so far?
Well, it's been a long journey already, and we've still got a year to go. I think the project is focused primarily on products that are tropical products. So we're not really, for the most part, we're not really looking at competition between EU farmers and farmers from overseas, from either Vietnam or Ghana in terms of this project, because EU farmers can't produce cocoa or coffee. But we can think about the ways in which we can arrange trade, both through policy interventions like trade agreements, but also more market-based things like agreements between producer groups and processor groups and trading groups in such a way that we might be able to enhance sustainability rather than just worrying about the greenhouse gases of moving material from where it's produced to where it's consumed or processed, but actually how it's produced and how it impacts the local communities. And I think that's been the primary focus of much of the work that we've done, certainly within our team, in this project.
You mentioned that we are focusing on tropical products, and we agreed ahead about questions, but this is a new question based on your first answer. Sorry for this. You mentioned that tropical products, and then, but there should be some useful outcomes also for European farmers. Recently, there were these huge protests of farmers just before the European Parliament elections. Is there something that our project could bring to the farmers?
I think there's something tangential. It's certainly not direct, but I think the sorts of questions we're asking and the sorts of things that we're looking at in relation to market relationships between those who consume farmers' products and those producing them could have an impact upon European farmers, because if we can change the relationship, or at least make the relationship much more benign and cooperative between processors and farmers, and in fact wider than that, the rural communities, then maybe we can get a much more harmonious and beneficial way of trading between each other. Because farmers are small, each individual farmer is small, and the processing organisation is large. One can't see, well, the farmer can see the monolith of where the food is going or where the product is going, but the journey in the opposite direction, of course, has to spread out. The atomisation of agriculture is a thing we've got to try and, we don't want to change it, but the trick is to try and make sure that the larger players in the whole value chain spread the benefit. And I think there are ways in which you can do that are mutually beneficial. And that's one of the things that we've been looking at in relation to Ghana and Vietnam and small farming villages and that.
Interesting that you say this, because one of the previous viewers actually said something similar, that in a way we have to guarantee that these behemoths of big companies and the small scale farmers, they somehow, that there is a fair share of income and more money from the premium price.
Of course, we spent 60 years trying to argue and be quite forceful about how we share things up, and often using force rather than incentive. But if we can make things incentive compatible, it'll happen anyway. And I think the sorts of examples that exist in terms of fair trade agreements, for example, can make things incentive compatible for the behemoth to do something for the little guy.
Yes. Your organization is the University of Kent. Which work packages you are the most involved in, and what do you think is the best or the benefit for your team from the project?
We're a team of 3. We are involved in package 2, 4 and 5, but of course dissemination, and this one is work package 7, so yes, we're involved in this too. Most of our work is in work package 4 and 5, quite a reasonable amount too, but we were leading less. I think how have we benefited? Well, we've benefited from being able to find resource to do what is quite interesting work. And one of my colleagues will speak in a moment about part of that. The other is the trade game, where we're hoping to make use of a novel way to do research, which is to use an app for a mobile phone to actually run an experiment and collect data.
So now we have still 12 months to go. The last year is just ahead of us. So you think, again, guessing on your current answer, you think that the most important focus of these 12 months is going to be this trade game? Is that?
For myself, it certainly will. It's the thing that I've got to get done now. And it's got the deliverable at the end of it, month 42, so I've got to get on with it. Yes, that for me, personally, in my involvement in the project, that's the biggest thing that I've got to finish.
You said that it's going to be a novel idea in research. Could you actually leak a little more information about it?
Games have been used in economics for probably 30 years now, bringing in from insights in behaviour and psychology into the field. We've used, as part of this project, and Ali will describe that in a moment, I'm sure, lab in the field experimentation, where you're actually face-to-face with individuals as groups and you play games with them to try and understand their motivation and how they think about the problems that they face in cooperation and in sustainability. This game is one that's played as in private, so it's one person on them or a borrowed mobile telephone, just providing answers, but being prompted along the way with questions. But playing a role, the role of a farmer, making input decisions and deciding whether to cooperate with their neighbours, whether to switch to more benign production technologies, each of which cost them, but may pay off in the end. That's the novel part. Computer games have been used from time to time, typically when you're trying to do something which is looking at the relationship between individuals making decisions simultaneously or consecutively. But in this case, I've designed the game purposefully so that any individual can pick up the game at any time, play, put it down. And so they're not trading against each other, but they are playing against the game.
And last question, but that you said anyone can play with it. Do you think that European policymakers are going to play with this game?
Yeah, and the people in the room this afternoon, I'm hoping will play with it too.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
You.